In the meantime, let me also bring in Siddhant. Siddhant, when while discussing Rishi Sunak's visit, there's always the crucial aspect of the India-UK relationship that comes to mind, and the fact that there doesn't seem to have been much movement as far as the FTA is concerned. While India was shelving hopes that this may seem to have been resolved at the summit, what have been the creases that still need that ironing out?
Yes, that's right, Akanksha, and you know there were a lot of disturbances in last 1 year with regard to India-UK relationship, Akanksha. The first one was the attack on Indian High Commission, which was taken up very seriously by the government of India, and perhaps a senior diplomat here in New Delhi was summoned by Ministry of External Affairs and was conveyed in the strict language about the incident. Post that, you know, if you remember the BBC documentary, then there were tax raids on BBC offices here in Delhi and in fact other places in the country. So you know, in last 1 year the relationship has seen a dip, but because of the efforts of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, I can say this responsibly that both countries are again back on track. Because even what people tell me off the record is that there were times when Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, did telephone. In fact, telephoned Prime Minister Modi, perhaps just to check whether India and UK are on the same page when it comes to trade deal. Also, the 12th round of negotiations have got over. Even the Trade Minister was here. Again, the bilateral with Trade Minister with Piyush Goyal took place in Jaipur on the sidelines of G20 event, and the conclusions and perhaps the outcome was interesting. So you know, because of the effort of Rishi Sunak. And each time around, even when BBC controversy happened, the documentary controversy happened, he distanced himself from the BBC documentary. When the raids on BBC happened, he distanced himself from the entire controversy. People in his government may have reacted strongly to it, but he never reacted or took any position. So, you know, it clearly defines one thing, that Rishi Sunak is very interested.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you there, Siddhant. We are also learning that another interesting dignitary, who's the president of South Korea, Yoon Yeol, has also visited the Rajghat. On that note, I'm going to quickly bring in Pallavi. Pallavi, another significant aspect to bringing peace and working towards territorial integrity, something that's also been highlighted in the declaration, is the focus on the Indo-Pacific. Yes, the name, the term, the Indo-Pacific may not have been mentioned in the declaration, but the fact that the focus as far as security and countering those territorial threats is concerned, South Korea happens to be a major player, because remember, they've been having continuous, consistent security military drills along with Japan and the United States, and now their leader is also at Rajghat at the G20 as well. How significant is India's sort of jugalbandi with all these countries?
And China, of course, remains uppermost in the minds, because many of the countries who are part of the G20 summit are very, very apprehensive or wary of China. And in fact, often there has been a pressure on India to come out as a counter to China, which is what it matters as far as the maritime policies are concerned, not just in the Indo-Pacific region, or also in the Indian Ocean region. In fact, the bilateral which took place between the Prime Minister and his Mauritius counterpart also focused on this. And, you know, as we have been talking about, the inclusion of the African Union into the G20 is also focused on maritime peace and the Pacific region, and how India possibly could build up an axis, or rather help in building up an axis, so as to counter any of these expansionist policies. And each of those bilaterals which are taking place, some which took place on day one, or the 3 important bilaterals, and now which are going to take place more today, are also going to be focusing on this important fact that there are countries who are on a resurgence, who are on an expansionist policy, and we need to ensure that one convince them that it doesn't work beyond a point of time. It is very, very important to maintain peace, because if peace is fragile, then just about everything else just cannot follow, whether it's economic policies, humanitarian policies, so on and so forth. And in that last 1 year, where there have been those tough negotiations, renegotiations, that's the point which India has tried to drive home about, whether it's been a part of the New Delhi declaration in terms of economic trade policies. There's an important chapter which talks about need for peace, fight against terror. This is an awareness which India certainly has tried to create, and other countries do understand that. It is for their own long-term fulfillment of the aspirations of the people that peace should be given a chance.
Absolutely. In fact, as we speak, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also has already paid a visit to Rajghat. He's very much present there. Abhishek Jha, if I could come to you. When we talk about China, I think one of the other significant mega success of the G20 has been the launch of the India-Middle East European Connectivity Corridor, one that many geostrategists are looking at as a very clever counter to China's BRI. Do throw light on this mega successful planning that's taken place during the G20.
So for a very long time, it has been talked about that the Belt and Road Initiative, which China started almost 10 years ago, has taken the world towards the development. So many countries have benefited from the project, but several infrastructural projects that China has developed have become kind of white elephant, and they are, while not giving any benefit to the society or the economic structure in those countries, the debt to develop these products have become a liability for these countries, and they are not in a position to pay them back. What we saw happening in Sri Lanka, the overall political and economic turmoil was one of the examples for that. We have seen concerns being expressed by Bangladesh. Then we have seen concerns by several African countries as well, that they are not in a position to pay back. We have seen concern expressed by Maldivian government also about this Chinese project, those mega infrastructure project which doesn't actually was required, but Chinese did push money in developing those projects, and at the end of the day, these countries are finding it really difficulty, and now the sovereignty is under severe stress. We have seen how 99 years of lease Sri Lanka had to give this Hambantota port to Chinese because Sri Lankans could not pay back the money. So this looks like a very calculated plan by the Chinese side to push money to these smaller countries, and when they become unable to pay them back, they will have their landmass or their geographical location used as a strategic point of interest with China. So this is something that the world leaders were trying to negate, and what we have seen as a regional connectivity project will work in that direction.
And that's why I would like to bring in Siddhant on that note. Siddhant, when we talk about this economic corridor that's been launched by India as far as Middle East and Europe is concerned, yes, the BRI has had a lot of blowback, especially when you look at the African continent. But when you talk about this new project that India, Middle East and Europe want to sort of push forward, let's not forget the fact that China has already been an old player in the market. How much will it take for us to sort of counter a project that has in fact reached, it's in fact made it to quite a stage now?
Well, that's right, Akanksha. Look, India is seen as a very credible country when it comes to partnership for in any sector, perhaps defense, infrastructure. And since this Belt and Road Initiative has been going on from last 10 years, this year they are organizing summit, and even China claims that more than 90 countries have accepted to participate in the summit in Beijing. So that was seen more as a messaging to the world that look how China is engaging more and more country with this particular initiative. And there was a kind of I won't say a pressure, but yes, there was an expectation from US and India especially to perhaps offer some sort of a counter to this this initiative. And yesterday, what we all witnessed here, Akanksha, was something very unprecedented and happened in a very surprised manner, where Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and President Biden, sat together with Prime Minister Modi to announce this mega rail port economic corridor